This is the Big Woods Bucks podcast. Come explore the big woods and timber in North America with your host, Maine master guide and deer tracking expert Hal Blood. Listen to Hal and co-hosts Lee Libby and Joe Cruzy as they unlock the secrets of big woods whitetails. Each episode will provide valuable insights into the tried and true system Hal has used for the last 40 years to scout, locate, and hunt mature big woods bucks. Listen and laugh as the crew discusses Hal's legendary adventures and learn how to apply a lifetime's worth of lessons from the big woods to your own hunting and outdoor adventures.
Welcome to the Big Woods Bucks podcast. This is your host, Hal Blood. Sitting here with me, Lee Libby, Joe Cruzy, and once again, the CEO.
Guys, give me too much credit.
Big Woody.
Yeah.
And
Don't make me nervous.
Just so everyone knows, Chris asks us to call him the CEO all the time. He's like,
Yeah, right.
CEO, Code Enforcement Officer.
yeah, we have
Chris
to.
is the CEO, and Hal says, "Call me the big boss, guys."
Big boss.
Yeah. So for a lot of you, deer season's underway, and hope you've had some success. What we want to talk about today a little bit is maybe a few obscure things that we haven't talked about yet. And those of you that are hunting after this and on your way up to hunting camp or whatever, we hope you can help you out with a few things. And one of them I know I've been getting some comments from people is you guys talking a lot about tracking and stuff, but what about when there's no snow? Which the reality is that was a good question because, you know, we all like to track and all that, but the reality is there's more days without snow than there is with snow. And if you've booked your week's vacation or taking it off and you don't have snow, you're still going to deer hunt. So maybe we can help you figure out some of those type of things to do and places to go, whatever. So Joe's a big trail camera guy. I'm going to have him start this off because he's got his cameras out and he's all ready. After moose season, he transfers his several hundred trail cameras. He starts putting them.
That's an impressive operation.
Yeah.
He starts putting all them cameras out for deer so he knows where everyone is in the woods. So
You name your bucks, too?
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I remember years ago, I was running with this gal from Jackman, and she said, "Let's go parking." I said, "I don't feel safe in the woods around here. Joe's got so many cameras."
Oh, my God. Yeah, I've got 10 or 12 I put out, and it's more just for sport. It's kind of a hobby. I think I've talked about it before. But it's different. For moose hunting, you get a lot on camera. Up in the big woods, it's more quality than quantity. But
One thing is
really-
I've gotten several comments asking for pictures of big woods bucks because I don't think a lot of people see big woods bucks. So if you get some pictures, we ought to put them on Facebook because
yeah, I will. And actually, I meant to put some of the moose pictures too because I had some cool moose videos and pictures, and one of them really shows how they disappear so quickly. You know, they just vanish for such a big animal. But for the deer, I've got some. I found some nice spots that I'm putting. I've been looking for. I don't have any good signposts around me. I've been looking for one of those.
I'll come down and help you out with that.
Yeah, you sure you can make it?
Might be able to.
We'll get you a cane.
Yeah. I think I can slip my way in there.
I bet you can. But no, I mean, for us, you know, deer season is going to be underway when you hear this, but for us, it's just getting ready to start. So it's a good time of year, the best time of year.
yeah,
Good time to be alive.
good time to be alive.
And the forecast is actually pretty promising, more so than I've seen in the last few years as far as snow talk and cold and that sort of thing. Next
Yeah.
week, it's looking like it's going to be in the 20s quite a bit
Yep.
at night.
Yep. It's really looks finally. I mean, this is going back to falls we used to have. Last 4 or 5 years, they've been terrible. We've had warm weather, and you know, October's been warm. Even up into November's been warm. I remember last year, first week of the season, I didn't really hunt. I was delivering my new book to some stores and stuff, and it'd be 60 degrees most of the time by 10, 11 o'clock, and pretty hard to walk around much and hunt. It's all right if you're in a stand, but since I ain't ever in a stand, I'd rather be more productive doing other things than that.
Didn't we have, if I recall, though, last opening weekend we had snow, I think.
We might have on the Saturday, but then during the week it got warm,
Okay.
and it stayed that way.
Yeah.
almost into the second week. And then finally, I think it was, I remember it was the end of the second week, we got snow because I left for Montana. And then Deb,
That's right. Yeah.
I called Deb the next day, and she said, yeah, we got about 4 inches of snow right after you left. And I'm like, great. Wasn't even called for in the forecast. And that's the way it happens a lot in mountains there. But
Yeah. Well, we've already seen some white. We saw some on the way over today, and I know
yeah,
on the last day of moose season there last Saturday it snowed.
squalling up.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, Saturday I was up on the roof there fixing my back and by putting metal roofing on, and we were watching it. It was spitting snow there, but I could see all the mountains up north of town are all engulfed in white. So, so since you don't have many signposts in your area, which I don't understand why, or you just haven't found them.
But I haven't found them. Yeah, it's not. I'm sure that they're somewhere.
Yeah.
You got to get out of the truck and walk, Joe.
Yeah. Well, I'm quite a road hunter. I have a hard time walking in the woods. So
So where are you putting your cameras then? What's the other good place you
travel
find
corridors. I use. There's some the spot that I'm focusing on. There's a lot of these pinnacles and valleys that go through there like fingers.
Yeah.
And so they it's pretty easy to find the travel corridors.
They have to
in
go
that area.
through it, some passageways through the ridges and mountains. Yeah.
And it's just another part of it is it's an area that I've hunted enough that once there's snow on the ground and you're tracking them, you see the areas they consistently go through. And so I'm using those spots. And actually last season when I was down in there, I marked a lot of those spots where I kept on noticing that deer were traveling and stuff. And I'll put my cameras in those spots. But like I said, it's not like, you watch some of these shows and like Chris made reference to, they name the deer and when it comes out, they know what it is and what its name is. It's
how
not
old
like,
it is,
yeah,
the birthday.
It's I don't know. I mean, if that's your thing, it's great. Everyone's got a different thing with hunting and what they like, but there's something to the mystery of it and tracking a deer and
not knowing what it's going to look like.
knowing and the surprise when you do see it, whether you kill it or not.
Yeah, but you made a good point there about if you are hunting the same area every year or whatever, and you have snow, the place those bucks take you through them corridors, make sure you remember those or mark them on your GPS or whatever you need to do, because those are typically going to be regular places where deer travel, and they're a good place to put a camera if you want to see what one of them deer might look like that's traveling through. But
and I have a number of spots there that I always say to myself when I'm tracking through there, I'll say, I don't mind sitting. I can if I feel good about an area. I mean, I've done all day sits and everything and hunted that way, but I'll think to myself, geez, if a guy just devoted a week in this spot, guaranteed he's going to kill a big buck. Guaranteed, because the deer travel that all the time. But it's a matter of finding someone that wants to sit for a week. I don't want to. And but if we're in a situation like, what we're talking about where you don't have snow and you can stand it, there's spots like that. And you hear it from guys up here a lot, guys that go to the same spot every year, kill their buck. And even though they're big woods bucks and they're a little more unpredictable, they still have their corridors. They like to travel.
Yeah. Then the little ones learn from the big ones where to go. So they'll always use those. Like in the spot I'm talking, the area I'm talking about that I like to go, the one invariable up in our area is cutting. And they actually cut off a big piece of it this past year, and they're getting ready to go in and cut a bunch more. So that's going to change. The deer are going to be around, but it might change a little bit. Although something I've noticed too is if they have a feature they like and then they come in and cut it, they'll still stick with that feature and go right across to a wide open cut way out the cover if it's a land feature that they like. And I noticed that last year where it seemed there was this one spot and wide open. I mean, they had to travel, 150 yards with no cover, but they always went across the same spot. It's probably a spot they've been using for a long time, and the cut didn't bother them. Yeah. It probably is remote enough where they didn't get bothered there or something.
Yeah. But, it's I know in a lot of places they base the hunt around the rut and the timing of the rut. which is always, you have to look at that too. But for us, it's more about the weather, watching the weather and whether we're going to have snow or not changes things. I got a guy that I moose hunted with this year turned me on to an app that I'm kind of anxious to see if it's accurate, but it was it's called Deercast, and it's the Drury brothers made this based on they did years of study on it, and they used weather, barometric pressure, and for your area specifically, and this guy that told me about it said it's unbelievably accurate as far as what the deer movements, whether they're going to move good or not. Obviously, when you're tracking, you don't have to worry about that as much because if you get on a track, you can dog them. But as far as, you got some of those days where you feel like you walk for miles and it's hard to cut a track, and others where they're just running everywhere. A little bit easier to pick them up, but I'm going to be anxious to see if it does correlate to deer movement and how they're going. If it works for our area.
I'd be anxious too because I don't believe in any of that stuff.
You don't think that weather conditions and barometric pressure?
No, the weather does, but they can't predict the weather ahead of time to make an.
No, but they only go 3 days out.
Oh yeah. The
you
weather
can't look.
The barometric pressure is the weather, anyways, to animals.
Right.
But all the other stuff with the moon phase and all that, I don't believe none of that stuff.
No, I think it probably takes into consideration temperature, pressure. And one thing they said that was interesting that I always liked hunting on calm days, especially if I was stand hunting, you just like a nice, calm, crisp day. And what all their research showed is that deer are more active on windy days, that they're more likely to be up on their feet when it's windy. And I was surprised to hear that. I always thought it was opposite of that.
Well, I don't know. I never thought about it a lot, but I've seen a lot of deer on windy days, and I would just surmise that's probably something to do with they feel more vulnerable in the wind if they're laying in a spot that something's easier to sneak up on them because they use their ears more than their eyes anyways when they're laying down. But if they're up on their feet, they can move around, they can see things, and they're not contained to one spot. But
it's pretty good logic.
That's all it is. It's just my guess.
Yeah. I mean, tracking on a windy day obviously is
Killing day.
Is great, yeah. Fresh snow and wind.
Yeah, I like the wind pretty well.
I think the odds just a little bit.
I think Lee's going to nod off on us over there.
Well,
he's got the sun in his eyes. The sun's getting ready to set.
Yeah.
I feel like a partridge on a cold, frosty morning sitting in a gravel road, just hoping nobody shoots me.
You look like you're dreaming about being on a beach or something, Lee. Not excited for deer season or anything.
Yeah, well, it's like a grain of salt, sometimes with me. This is our busy season, and it's just everything gets jumbled up, and then next thing you know, it's here, and you got to go, and you make the commitment and go. And in the past years, I've told Hal, some days I get out there and I'm on a buck track, and I'm thinking of all the things that I need to be doing, but I'm not paying attention to what I should be doing.
What do you mean, like work?
Yeah.
Got to forget about that.
Yeah.
How do you jumble that with your schedule? I mean,
I pick my days. I really do. It's not uncommon for me to leave the house at 4:30. I have a loop that's about 30-something miles, and I'll make that loop in the Jeep first thing in the morning. And if I see something that interests me, I might get up and go. And then if the snow's good, then I'll make a day of it. I'll go somewhere else. But if the snow's crunchy or it ain't perfect, I really think, and I don't know if Hal agrees or not, but you've only got a half a dozen of really good killing days, unless, the weather's unusually good. But
yeah,
I'd agree with that for sure.
Yeah.
That the days you get out there and you just happen to be alive and be doing it.
yeah, on those days, I give it 110%. I could care if the world's spinning or not. It'll be here when I get back.
Yeah.
Those are the days you got to make the hay while the sun shine, they says. It just, everybody thinks you get a nice fresh snow and there it's going to be. And I used to do that myself, guilty of it. First day of the season, we got nice snow. We're going to have snow for the season. And then 2 days later, it's gone and you never get any more.
Yeah.
Or it melts and turns to a crust or something,
Yeah.
Have you ever kept a journal of the weather and your snow and everything?
Yeah, right in my head.
You guys ever get
Why not
phone-
even
There's
ask?
a lot. There is a lot under that camouflage hat, I can tell you.
Yeah.
I wished I had to tell you the truth, but I'm not that organized with that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just never do things like that. Keep
Yeah.
a diary or journal or anything. I've had a couple of them. Deb's bought me a couple for Christmas at times, and I don't know. I'm just not organized like that where I sit down and record what happened for the day. And I think that's because you laugh, but I do remember most of it, you know. I remember the weather and not every day. I don't remember every day, but any day, I remember the days I've chased a buck or seen a buck or all of that. I remember what it is usually and the weather and all that, but still I wished I had have kept a journal all those years because there'd be a lot of info there, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I say that every winter at the lodge, you know, at how the weeks are. Oh, I just got to write. It just takes a minute, you know, but I
Yeah.
kind of the same way you are where, yeah, I'll start it tomorrow. And I just don't do those, but that information would be pretty good to have.
Yeah, for sure.
You guys ever get a phone call from Hal before things really start getting going though? And I'll get a phone call and I'm busy at the office and
Oh, I can't
an
imagine
hour
that, Chris.
worth of weather analyzation. Oh my God. It's almost like this guy is so obsessed with it. It's unreal.
Hal analyzing the
On
weather?
and on and on about maybe snow here. What about this? What do you think? He must look at 50 different forecasts.
Well,
You're excited.
plan your work and work your plan.
I know. I just feel like saying, when do you want me to be there? Let me finish my work.
Well, that's how we got caught last year going to Montana. There was no snow anywhere out east, even predicted for anywhere. Adirondacks, Maine, anywhere. There wasn't any. So we hemmed and hawed about it, and they were getting a new snow in Montana, so that's where we headed. So we get out there, and we got the best snow back home, and we hunted on crust in Montana. That was painful.
I don't feel too bad. You got nice bucks out there.
Yeah, we did all right anyway.
Yeah. If he was looking for sympathy, he was
I
looking
know.
in the
Give
wrong
me a
spot.
break.
But that's big country out there, huh?
Yeah, it's big. It's big. It's different. It's kind of like back here in the mountains. It's just on a bigger scale. You know, the valleys are wider and the mountains are taller, but it's similar hunting. It's logged over, and you know, there's logging roads you get back in, and it's not a lot of difference. It's rougher. A lot of it's, you know, steep and high up, but it's pretty nice. I still like it. People ask sometimes, where's your favorite place to hunt? And I still say Maine. I've been a lot of places, but just something about the woods of northern Maine. It's not just the woods. It's the fact that we've got the biggest deer. Other than, you know, there's places like, you know, Alberta and Saskatchewan, but you can't compare them because it's not. We can't go there and hunt. You got to have a guide, you know, and everything out there is guided hunts out of tree stands and stuff. But for someone that tracks to go some places, you can't go to a better place in northern Maine, you know, maybe northern New Hampshire or whatever, because there's plenty of place to roam and you can get away from people and have the woods to yourself if you want to work at it, you know. So that's why I still like Maine the best out of all the places I've hunted. Mystique about what some old mossy horned buck might be kicking around there, you know. It's a mystique because reality is you never do get to see him, even if you do put trail cameras out, and I put a few usually every year just to see what's going on, and I don't use them at all to try to determine where I'm gonna hunt or anything, because I know the spot is a good place because there's a signpost usually where I put a camera, and I know there's big bucks coming by, but just to see what they might look like, it's kind of fun, you know, see what they got for antlers or whatever. So that's why I do it. But
I just mostly put him out trying to get a picture of a mountain lion.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Lee don't use trail cameras. He uses the bull in the china closet method.
yeah.
Run like a banshee through the woods till
Yeah.
he finds something.
Yeah, I do. My thing with the no snow is, it goes back to, I gave a seminar once on, it goes back to your theory of breaking down the big woods. And when I first started guiding for you, you gave me a small parcel of land to hunt all by myself. It was about 8,000 acres. And you said, Lib, that's yours. You can have it. Nobody will bother you. I says, perfect. So I took that piece of woods and I applied it to growing up in southern Maine, and I broke that down into a smaller, more manageable. I treated that 8,000 acres like it was 250 acres. And down home, them old boys know where them deer cross them stone walls, through the old fences and by the oak tree. And enough time in that country up there, and I realized a lot of them deer had them same old trails they were on, and the logging didn't bother them too much, so that when we did have limited snow or no snow, I still had a good spot for a tree stand or ground blind to set a client and feel good about it, and we shot some bucks in there like that. So now if I was to hunt bare ground, I know places around here that I'd feel pretty good about setting all day if I didn't have nothing else in the whole world to do but go kill a deer, set down, put a little thought into it. I'm sure I could find a bunch of places. But if you go back to the guy takes a week off for vacation, he gets stuck with the first week or second week or whatever week he gets stuck with. If he concentrates on one piece of land, and I don't care if it's a township of 25,000 acres or a piece of land of 250 acres, if he figures out those deer and where they go, he stands a lot better chance than he does just gomming around on something else. Another little story was a fella called me one day coming to Rangeley to hunt, and they were staying out to East Kennebago in a camp. He said, doesn't look like any snow in the forecast, just rain. What do I do? I said, walk up the side of that mountain till you find some deer tracks. Kick around, see if you can find a rub line somewhere. Hunt that rub line all day long, from one end to the other. Go as far as you can follow it one way and turn around and hunt it back, follow it the next way. Tuesday afternoon, he called me and said, Lib, I got a deer I got to show you. He pulled into my job site, and I thought it was a moose in the back of the truck. His feet were black. Coal black feet sticking out. I said, son of a gun, he shot a moose. He pulled up, and he had a 8-pointer in the back, weighed 272 pounds.
No kidding.
Monster. And I said, where'd you get that? And he says, I was hunting that. I went up there Monday, and I found a rub line, a scrape line. And he says, I hunted it all the way back and forth every day. He says, and finally, this morning I was hunting up through there, and a doe come by, and he says, I stepped off the trail and let her walk right by, and behind her was him. And I killed
That's
him.
how it's done. Yeah.
So, yeah.
2 points connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That's a good story, Lee, because I tie those things. It's good advice for people is you have to hunt when you're in the big woods. You've got to hunt where the deer are most of the time. And I call it 90-10 rule. So a big buck might have, say, 10 square miles, pick a number, 20 square miles of his territory, but he basically utilizes about 10% of it. So you want to find the 10%, that's where you want to hunt. That's how you kill a buck. You don't want to hunt too much in the 90% area because you probably aren't going to see one there. Not to say you never would. So I always say you spend 90% of your time in the 10% area and 10% of your time in the 90% area. You have a heck of a lot better luck doing that than you will just wandering around aimlessly in the woods.
yeah.
So, but yes, rub lines and scrape lines and all of that, you find that sign, well, it tells you a buck's traveling there, so that's where you want to put your time in.
Yep. Yep. But I'm adamant. I don't care who you are. If you can find a piece of land that you can figure out, I think over time you would consistently kill bucks. If you want to go to the Allagash, go to the Allagash. You want to go to Jackman, go to Jackman. Figure it out. Now on snow is different because I could cut a buck track out to East Kennebago Mountain and end up in Langtown and back down around Quill Hill in a day, That's a whole lot different.
But you're still figuring out things because he's
Oh,
taking you to
see
where
new
things you
stuff,
probably places you wouldn't have gone.
Yeah, I
Well
almost
found.
killed a big one 2 years ago. He kept crossing the Todd Road, and I had a flat tire on a trailer, and I pulled over to fix the flat tire, and there was the buck track in the sand, just as big as they get. And I filed that away, and I went back that fall, and I was driving through there. I just slowed down a little bit when I drove through there. Finally, one morning, that son of a gun had crossed in the night. I went up, parked my Jeep, and he took me for, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 miles, and I ended up catching him with a couple of does in one spot. But evidently it wasn't nothing that interested him, because as soon as he see my face, he was out of there. But yeah, just it was funny. I just went to change that tire, and I said, "Oh, look at that track."
Yep.
Yeah, found a bunch of new country.
Yeah.
Being observant.
Yeah. Putting the pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't do that because they don't pay attention to what's around. You know, they don't think they're hunting until they're actually in their hunt for the week. You know, as we guiding and stuff, you always. I mean, I'd be moose hunting and looking for deer sign. I'll be deer sign hunting. I'll be looking for moose sign and putting out bear baits. You're looking for both, so you're always looking.
Oh yeah. I found a buck track the other day I'm going to go look for, I can tell you. And I know there's a big one in that country because I've tracked it before. And the other day I'm walking up over a hill and taking a guy into a spot to call for the night. And there's a smashing buck track right in the skidder trail. I'm like, son of a gun. So I can't wait for a little snow.
Not to get too far off subject, but I'm gonna because you mentioned bear. Did Matt tell you his bear story
No.
from this moose season? So last week.
Oh, I just talked to him today. That was it.
Yeah, they were out in a cut where they were onto some moose, and he saw by a boulder there it was all scraped up and ground tore up, and he got to looking around and looked in under that boulder, and there was a 200-pound bear in there curled up hibernating. So they all got in there looking at it, and he said it would yawn and roll its head around, but it couldn't do anything else, you know. And so they all got to go in there and take pictures of it. And he said he felt like he could have just reached in there and pet it and had no problem at all. You know, it was that out of it. But
that's
that was
cool.
pretty cool.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, it was right out in a clear cut.
Yep. Yeah.
You wanted to get buried in there for the winter, I guess. The snow come down and cover him over.
You never know what you're going to see out there. It's always an adventure.
Yeah.
Chris, so you're from down a little further south than we are.
Yeah, a little.
Do you do any pre-scouting? I mean, what do you do down there? I know you've shot some bucks down there in Rhode Island.
Yeah. Well, the pieces of land are kind of small, and I've been spoiled by you guys so much that coming up hunting here that I don't put a lot of time into scouting anymore. I mean, during the season, I'm always I don't sit, so I've been I can put a piece of the woods, just like you said, break the woods down. Yeah. Because what I've learned in Rhode Island is there's some bigger pieces of land, and I found that on the mapping software, and that's where I gravitate to, because the mature bucks live in the middle of those big pieces of land.
Right.
You see all these tree stands 100 yards off the road. You walk in a quarter or half a mile. There ain't no boot tracks in there at all.
That relates to I always get a kick out of the guys that are setting up on the side of the road moose calling, that second season or even first season. Well, first season not the same, but second season, because there's been a week of bird hunters pounding back and forth, shooting, and they've just pushed them moose back, half a mile or so, and the chances of you getting one there are slim. But again, just got to get in there. But I don't think people really understand how far we go until you take a moose client on a walk for a day, call in and scouting and looking around, and at the end of the day you look at your GPS, you went 6 or 7 miles, and to them then they kind of realize, geez, it didn't take us that long and it wasn't that hard.
Right.
So if you put your head down on a buck track and you'd go, you're in decent shape, to cover 10 or 12 miles isn't that big a deal.
Yeah, in moose territory, but, like where we go way up north, but you go to Jackman and put 10 to 12 miles on.
Oh, yeah, I know.
It's a little different. Going up down those mountains.
Yeah.
Piece of cake.
I was hunting a little further west this year than I usually go. Out in, it was probably your old stomping grounds, Lee. And
you stay out of my old stomping ground.
It's way more rugged out there than it is right close to home.
Yeah.
It's something how the mountains pick up out there.
Them border mountains are pretty rough.
Yeah. A lot steeper and a lot more of them.
I remember when I first started chasing him with a camera, though, amazed at how agile those bucks were. They may go straight up some of those steepest You wouldn't think a buck would go up there, and then they get through some of the smallest things too. So you got to always keep in mind about, we talk about if the antlers are wide, they're going to walk around it. Not always. Not always do they do that.
They can tip their head just like we can.
It's especially if they're on a doe. They ain't going to leave if they don't want to,
Yeah, my old fat horn buck, when I was tracking him, I was wondering if he had any horns at all on him. He was going through these fir thickets there and they were pretty stout firs. They were, an inch and a half around, and they grew about 6 inches apart. And I had to turn sideways and push my way through. And he went through there, and I'm thinking, geez, how can he have any antlers and get through here? But he wasn't overly wide, but he had heavy set of horns,
Right?
Just put their head in there and push. Hey, everyone. Hal here. You want to join the hunting club as soon as you can, because that's where you're going to get all my information. I'll have short film hunts, video tips, articles every month, and there's also a forum on there for you people to communicate. Maybe you'll meet a new hunting buddy on there. And the other thing is a question of the month. Submit a question, and I'll pick one every month to answer, and the winner's going to end up getting a decal for their truck. Join up at bigwoodsbucks.com. Hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, Joe here. Wanted to take a few minutes to talk about Lake Parlin Lodge. We're a 4-season lodge located just south of Jackman. We've got cabins, lodge rooms, mini lodge. We're a big snowmobile destination in the winter, full restaurant, bar, all the amenities that you need for your trip. Open obviously through the summer, right on the lake. Kayaks, canoes, all included with the cabin. We also do a lot of weddings, so if you're looking for a destination wedding, we can do a wedding up to 200 people. And, of course, we've got our hunting season, moose season, deer season. So check us out. We're at lakeparlinlodge.com.
You get any plans for out west this year, Hal? Or are you just going to...
Don't make any plans. I blow with the wind and the snow.
You never know what's coming out.
Oh, that reminds me of that joke about the motel room, man.
Yeah.
Oh, you need to have a
Let's,
bumper sticker on your truck.
I will remember last year you called me out and said, Lib, I think they're getting some snow up around Baker Lake. Let's run up there. And I was like, geez, I'd love to, but I can't. So next night you call me, and I got one today, Lib. Yeah, would have been your buck track if you would have been with me. He said, I'd have given it to you. Well, thanks a lot. He said the worst part was the first one I tracked in there wasn't big enough. So I walked around him, and this big one was laying 100 yards on the other side of him. He says, I shot that one. Thanks, Hal.
That ain't quite the whole story, but it's
No,
close.
it was an abbreviated version.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's one of them things that got to make hay when the sunshine. It was snow coming for the first day, and had to go with it, go where the snow was.
That wasn't last year before
2
last.
years
yeah,
ago,
2 years
a
ago.
couple years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
Might have been 3 years ago now. I don't know. Yeah, they just got one of those storms over east there that didn't get far enough west to hit us, and I was in the truck at 3 a.m. headed.
Yeah, you went quite a ways that day. That was an impressive story to go all the way over there and kill one like that.
Yeah, I drove.
It wasn't Baker Lake though, because I don't know how many deer are around Baker Lake.
No, it was over by Katahdin.
Oh, yeah.
Millinocket area there, over that way. So I drove over there. I think it was 3 hours each way, but I did stay over. I had the buck out at before dark, and then I met up with Joe Donito. Had come over from New York, and I met up with him, and we spent the night in Millinocket, and I headed out. He went back hunting, and I headed home with it that next day through the woods. But yeah, got to do what you got to do, right?
That's right.
Don't waste a snowy day.
Yeah.
Right, Chris? You're not going to waste one this year, right?
This year.
Yeah.
You going to come up?
Yeah.
He's going to shirk his CEO duties to go deer hunting. Can you imagine
Told
it?
him we're not releasing any new products this year in October like he did last year.
Well, yeah. Well, it wasn't supposed to be that late, but things just worked out that way.
What did we release last October? Was it the new fanny pack?
No, well, we've had the new fanny pack. We had a hard time with the new fanny pack. The production of it. We lost the company that we had building it, but we found probably a better one now. And Silent Predator, the same people that make our clothing, use the same wool, Woolrich. And actually, we have 3 different colors now. We have it in snow camo, we have it in brown camo, which is 22 ounce Pendleton wool,
Pendleton wool,
which
yeah.
is an excellent wool. Same design.
You
Lib,
get
I
it?
think you came up with the design of that one, didn't you? That mid-sized fanny pack.
Yeah.
We didn't listen to you for a while, but
You don't listen to me until 5 or 6 years later. You call me up, Lib. This is what we're gonna do. I'm like,
I give
wait
you
a
credit.
minute. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
That was a conversation 3 years ago. Oh yeah. But
I think the size is. I mean, we sold thousands now, so I think the size is really a great size for people. It's a mid-size,
Yeah.
Yeah,
but it
some-
lays flat when you don't have a lot in it. It's got a GPS pocket on the top, and
does the inReach
lunch
fit
flap.
right in there?
it does.
Oh, yeah.
I just
Water
bought
bottle
one.
too.
You did?
You'd be proud of me. I just
Nice.
bought one.
All right. You got
For
to.
some reason, I thought you had one already. I was searching and asking for your number. And
No, I don't have. I used to carry a $99 GPS, just enough to set a waypoint was enough. But that inReach is pretty neat. That's
Yeah, you can use that for everything, snowmobile trips or anything.
yeah.
Yeah, anyone that spends any amount of time in the woods alone up here should have something like that.
And as I
Yeah,
get
up here.
older, I'm pushing 40 now, so
Yeah.
I ought to have that SOS button.
Yeah. Yeah. So that the Hope Them Adirondack track has heard that
About the snow camo.
snow camo. All you Adirondack guys there, we know how you like your camo over there instead of your green checkered.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we got it,
Yeah.
or we adopted that color.
Yeah. No, it was the book, October Lee. That's what we come out with it. My new book come out just before. Well, it was in October, and we were scrambling with it with orders and trying to get. We had a bunch of pre-orders and trying to get into a few stores and stuff for the season, and that's why the first week of the season last year I was running around trying to get it in some stores, or actually getting it in some. So.
You wrote your book the winter before last, not last winter?
Well, he worked on it all spring.
Yeah,
of
I worked on it.
17.
I worked on it all winter.
Yeah.
And I wrote the whole book, and then I didn't like it. And a couple other people I had read it thought I could add to it. You know what I mean?
Not enough detail.
Yes, I tend to write a lot of times when I'm telling stories or writing. I just take it for granted that everybody understands the lingo or what's going on. But I learned that they don't. A lot of people are still trying to just learn, and some of the things I don't explain good enough. So I ended up going right back over it and chapter by chapter and rewriting the whole thing again. And see, that's what kind of set us back on the timeline.
Like instead of just saying you thought it was a good time to sit down and have a sandwich, you say it was a good time to sit down and have a ham and turkey with Swiss cheese.
Yeah, something
Get
like
into
that.
big detail.
Yeah. It's actually roast beef in American. That's the best sandwich to have just before you get back on the track.
Yeah, it's funny. I do always, that's a great piece of advice when the time is right to just relax and
Yeah, you
Sit
can't believe
down.
how many people went. I wrote that in my first book. I don't know, whenever that came out, Chris, 10 years ago or more.
you've got one buck named the sandwich buck, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, I was eating my sandwich. I was about halfway through my sandwich when he came in. It was bare ground, matter of fact. And I think must have been the first week. And I sat down to eat a sandwich, and I sat there because if I'm going to have a sandwich when I'm not tracking, I always make sure I'm in some buck sign.
Right.
Why waste a half an hour sitting there if you ain't somewhere where you might see a buck? So I'd gone down this little, it was almost like a trail. It was an old road from way back in the turn of the century, grown in, and there was buck sign right down it. It was way back in. It was 3 miles back in from where you could drive, and there was rubs on the trees, of willows and stuff right along the trail, and I kept looking at them. Oh, geez, a lot of buck sign here, a lot of buck sign. Then all of a sudden, was about a 6-inch popple tree raked right up, and I could see tracks going into the woods from there. And I'm like, I think I might go right in here. And I got in there, and it was like stepping into that buck's house. I'd see a scrape, and I'd walk to that, and then I could look over and see a rub, and I'd walk over to that, and I'd see another rub, and walk over to that, and I'd see another scrape. I mean, everywhere. And I go, good place to have a sandwich. So I sat down, and I started eating my sandwich, and I grunted. When I sat down, I grunted a couple times, and I was eating my sandwich, and thinking about things, looking around. It was just a nice, perfect day. It was quiet and gray day, and I grunted again, and I took another bite of my sandwich here, and all of a sudden I heard a quick crack behind me, and I go, "Oh, that sounded like a deer." So I turned around, and I could see legs going up through some firs about, I don't know, maybe no more than 40 yards, might have been 30 yards away from me. So I got spun up, and I got up on my feet, and he kept coming, and I realized he was coming right down where I just walked, and I had put some buck scent on my pant legs and my sleeves when I walked in there, and I actually think he was following me. I think he put that together. He smelt buck scent, and he heard a buck grunt, and I couldn't get a shot. I see him go through I see his horn on his left beam, and it looked real short. And I'm like, I don't know. I got to wait till I see a little bit better than that before I'm going to shoot. And finally, he worked his way ahead a little bit. He just stuck his head kind of out in an opening from behind a fir tree, and he turned and he looked right at me like he knew right where that sound had come from. Well, I already had the gun up, of course, and when he turned, I could see he had a really nice rack, so I pulled right into that fir tree and let him have it. And the reason his beam looked funny was because it was broken off in velvet on that side, so it didn't have the length. It was kind of just a little bit odd, but a nice buck.
You said something a minute ago talking about the buck urine. You see this year where they're really concerned in Maine because CWD was found just across the border, and
they're
encouraging people not to use out-of-state scents and all that stuff.
They made it illegal to use doe urine in Rhode Island. You can't use
really?
it anymore. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They got that aggressive with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I haven't here yet, but they want people to be mindful that it.
Tink's got a stomach ache right now. His business model's changing.
Well, I think it was more if it's from Maine. They're basically saying stuff from outside of Maine. So I don't know. The
only thing they put into a rule is right now is to bring any meat. If you shoot a deer in New York or someplace, you have to bone the meat out and cap the skull off and take the brain out to bring it back. You have to do that now. That's kind of like they call it a rule because it didn't pass through the legislature, but it's basically it's law. So if it's if you're going to mount it, then you got to cape the skull out. Yep, got to cape it, cap it, and bring it back. If you're going to European it, you got to clean it all out, get the brain, because obviously you'd just boil it to do that. But yeah, you got to have it free of brain and tissue, I guess, is what they want. But
well, it's funny that you said to boil it, but I started this moose season. I did a couple Europeans, and Eric did one too. Did a couple with my pressure washer.
Yeah,
boy, does that work good. It takes a little bit of time, but I think from start to finish, you probably have 3 hours in it. But I mean, it's done when you get finished.
Yeah,
it's.
Well, I know a guy that used to do a lot of skulls, different ones, and sell them at the craft shows or whatever. And he used to boil them first. He'd boil the skull, and then he'd pressure wash it to clean it out after he boiled it. And he claimed that was a great way to do it. Probably was, because once you boil it and get it loosened, it's going to pressure wash a lot easier.
Yeah.
And you only need to boil it for. Well, when I clean mine up, I usually run them. I usually boil it for half an hour or so. Then I take it out and get the big chunks of meat off and the eyeballs and stuff and the brain, pick it out, and then throw it in for another half an hour, and then I'm done and clean it up. But with a pressure wash, I think you could save a step. Maybe boil it to loosen it a little bit and have at it.
We're sitting here in Lee's office right now, and I'm looking out the window, and there's 3 deer feeding right towards the window here.
Well, aren't they on that salt block Lee keeps out there?
Yep.
Oh, maybe there's only 2. I thought there was 3 there.
Town deer. You can't
That's pretty
shoot them.
cool.
You got to leave them town deer for them stick slingers there. They run around town in their camouflage and their bow and arrows, and they shoot them things.
Don't be a hater.
They shoot them things right out of the truck. I'm like, oh, there's one townie down.
Yeah.
They had a nice buck walk right across the front yard there this morning. You might as well shoot them. They're going to get run over if you don't. So,
Yeah, one went across your yard.
Yeah, we were standing in the front yard. And Bruce said, "Geez, there's a nice buck right there." And I looked at him. He was probably I don't know, 16-inch 8-pointer or something. I said, I wouldn't shoot that, but a lot of people would.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it's quite as. There's a lot of town deer in Jackman, but not quite like Rangeley is. Rangeley seems to have.
Well, they have.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah, they've got a big zone here where it's protected, right?
Yeah, we're in it. Yeah, this side of the Route 4 from the lake all the way down from Rangeley to Aquasic, so game preserve. There's some smashes in that game preserve. And every year somebody goes in there and tries to shoot one. And then they say, I didn't know. But yeah, there's a lot of deer. You know, it's too bad in a way because when they get ready to yard up, they come to town and
Easy pickings.
Yeah, well, we'll be in the snowmobile, the trail groomers at night, and we're hooked up with radios right to Rangeley PD, and I don't know how many deer vehicle incidents they have that early season.
Oh, yeah.
Because them deer are coming from out 20 miles or so, and they get to town, they forget about 60-mile-an-hour vehicles, and
Yeah.
That time of year it's dark, and yeah, we lose a lot of them.
To snowmobiles?
No, to vehicles.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought when you were saying groomer, I thought you were saying.
No,
you get
I'm
on the
just,
trail.
I'm out there grooming trails and I'm listening to that radio
Right.
and, they'll come on and say that they've got a deer hit. So,
Yeah, kind of the same thing in the Forks.
yeah, it's too bad. We lose a lot of them, but I think they gave out a bunch of doe permits again this year for over here.
Yeah, they gave them out for over in Zone 8 in Jackman, too.
Yeah. But the deer herd's healthy. I mean, there's a ton of deer around.
Yeah, we've had some good years here. Since our bad winters of, I don't know what year they were, about 10 years ago.
It's like 07, 08 or 08, 09 or something. It was
Yeah,
around that
just
time
about.
period. Yep.
About 10 years ago, but we've had either easier than normal or normal winters since then. We haven't had any bad ones, and it's really helped the deer recover quickly. I mean, we lost probably half the deer in some yards. They said more than that, but it doesn't take them long to recover,
2007, 2008 was a bad year for a lot of things. The stock market was bad. The real estate
There's
market
the
was
CEO.
bad.
Yeah. There's another one. If that
Presidential election was bad.
if that note was on my desk, 2007 stock market was bad.
Yeah.
Woody wrote that.
Yeah.
It was a bad year. I remember I had a yard sale of about $750,000 worth of iron, and I had to get rid of it in a hurry. Yeah, didn't work out that well.
And nothing sold in a hurry then.
Well, it did at auction prices.
Right, well, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, go upside down in a hurry.
I got a learning story to share about something similar to what Hal had, except I didn't get the deer and I'll tell you why. I went up to Zone 6. Joel had invited me to go hunt up there, and he said there was a big buck cruising an area, so I went in there. Brian was with me. We were filming, and this thing was all stove up. We spent the morning in there, but I got thinking, that buck could be 5 miles away, and I'm talking myself out of not just staying there because I've been on enough tracks now that I know how far they go, and he's been here, but I left, and one of the guys that wanted to sit, we put him in there, and he killed that buck at 1:00, and it was a beautiful 8-pointer. And I was sick, but I learned a lesson. I don't know if I learned a lesson because I don't know if I do the same thing again. It's one of them things where you either zig or zag. I mean, I saw all the sign, I knew, and I spent time in there, but I wasn't patient enough to, I guess, spend enough time in there. Because you guys know the bucks go, just because the sign is there, they might not be there at that time. That's what kept going through my mind, but I was glad that the other guy got it. It was a cool thing. His first one, big one he ever got. But
Yeah, that goes with any kind of hunting. If you don't believe in it and you don't believe you're going to do it, chances are you're not.
Right.
You got to have faith in where you are and what you're doing, and sometimes you obviously get lucky. But
this was bare ground too, so it was different. If there was snow on the ground, it'd be a different situation. But I think I should have spent some time in there. I would have liked to have seen him down the end of my barrel.
how big was he?
196.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have passed him. He had a beautiful rack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't you learn another lesson that same time on snow?
Funny how Hal remembers all the lessons.
I told you, that's why I don't need a journal.
He always remembers my bad stories because there's a lot of them.
Yeah, tell us about that, Chris.
Which
snow.
one?
Oh, when you got all
I got
that,
so many of them.
when you got all that snow up there, and you didn't want to keep tracking.
Oh, yeah. You want me to share that one?
Well, you don't have to.
What are you going to do?
Because probably about 3/4 of the people listening's done the same thing.
Yeah, now I really want to hear it with that reaction.
He's going to have to remind me of which one it was because I don't remember. Well, it was the day we got the 24 inches on the ground. That day?
I don't know. I don't know how many inches of snow. I wasn't there.
It was a lot.
We didn't get invited.
Yeah, you were invited.
That's a big storm.
We didn't have to go there, Lee, because we had better snow over around this way because it was only 6 or 8 inches.
Yeah.
We didn't want to have to waller in 24 inches, but Woody had to go way up there and hunt in a place he'd never been before instead of coming to where he'd been for 15 years.
I think he's scalding you now,
I think that's
Woody.
the point he was trying to make. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Well,
I learned that lesson years ago when I first started hunting, where we were going 30 miles from the house, from the camp to go hunt because it's always better far away. And we had to come back early one day, and there was these big giant buck tracks right through the yard. I just had to sit in the house that day.
somebody told me once I was stubborn, but I don't believe him. I got to learn on my own.
So for somebody listening that doesn't have all the wool clothing they need, can we order that right on the website?
Right on the
Big Woods
website,
Bucks
yep.
website.
Yeah, we make all sizes for all different shapes, and some people that need them to be custom made, they can call the office and get that. We have an array of sizes, for everybody that has common things. But
Yeah,
we've had
Leah-
some really good reviews on it.
Leah got the set that she won in the drawing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Does it fit her good?
Yeah, great.
Oh, good.
Yeah, the jacket's just a little bit big, but it's fine because she can layer with it.
So she's styling now.
Oh,
huh?
yeah, she loves it. Yeah, the pants
Best
were
looking
perfect.
girl deer hunter out
That's
there.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got the full outfit, so she's psyched,
Yeah.
Yeah.
excited to use it.
Can't wait to
But-
see the pictures of her with her big buck wearing it.
She's going to have it. She wants to track this year, so
Yeah. You told her there was a lot of juju in that clothing,
absolutely.
right? Yeah.
But
Stuff wears like iron. That's what I've heard the most comments that the people call they say it wears like iron.
Well, there's no question. I've worn a lot of wool over the years, and I think it's a combination of that Woolrich wool is great, and then Silent Predator does a nice job stitching. They're really quality. So for the money, it's really a working man's price for what they are, and a set should last the average Joe most of his life for hunting.
The biggest part is it's virgin wool. It's not reground, which makes a huge difference in the qualities or the proprieties that wool has. All the natural things, insulation, the scentlessness of it, or it doesn't hold scent, things of that nature. So virgin wool makes a big difference.
this moose season, I wore mine more than I ever have moose hunting, just because we had some good cold weather early on, and even in the days when it wasn't real cold, it's just such a comfortable jacket and quiet too, of course, which is nice, rubbing up against brush and everything. But I've had a number of wool jackets through the years, and the Silent Predator is definitely the one to have.
Somebody called me up the other day. He goes, "Why are the pockets slashed?" And I said, "Put the coat on." Puts the coat on. I said, "Now put your hand in there." Oh, I understand why now. It was designed the right way.
Yeah.
Now, you never see those slash pockets like that, or not that often, but it makes a big difference when you want to store something and get in there and get it. So
If I had to, one thing I would like to see if I was going to critique one little point is the one inside pocket is just open, and I like whenever I have an open pocket like that, it makes me nervous that whatever's in there, and I don't even use that one, the lower inside one.
I don't use them, so I don't notice.
Yeah, I would if it had a zipper on it. That would be the only critique I have of it. I mean, other than that, the two uppers are well placed, and
that's why we put zippers on the back pockets of the pants. I always worry about losing my wallet, so we put zippered storm flaps so that there's no seepage of,
What are you worried about losing your wallet for? You never have any money in it. It's all out in them lead pipes in your backyard.
Besides, wallets are supposed to be in your front pocket, by the way. It'll throw your back out, right, Hal?
Right.
Not when you're walking.
I hope he brought the Big Woody credit card so he can buy me dinner.
So
That's what he carries in his wallet. That is important.
Yep.
But not when you're hunting.
So I keep hearing about this muzzle loader. I've shot it. I know it's a great gun. I'm anxious to get my hands on my own.
Yep.
Are we getting pretty close now?
We're close. We're very close.
Excellent.
We're gonna have two different versions on the website. One's called Build Your Own, and there'll be we put together like 80 different combinations between all the different stocks. They'll be able to choose from 45 or 50 left-handed, right-handed, safety, and the different types of sights. We've chosen PEEP, Picatinny rail, 1-inch scope rings or 30 millimeter scope rings.
Or open sights, buckhorns.
Yeah, yeah. And then the other one will be a dedicated tracker. Well, I mean, it's designed for the tracker.
It's the Big Woods model.
Yeah.
We'll have the peep sight on it. Yeah. And the cool thing about it is, too, is you can, if you wanted both calibers, you just buy another barrel. You don't have to buy another whole gun. So
Right.
it fits right on. If you can buy a 45, then you decide you want a 50, you can just buy the barrel and run with it.
I think personally I'm going to go with the Picatinny.
Yeah.
Put a
It gives
scope
you
on it.
Well, the other thing is there's slots built on either side of the Picatinny that you can have a PEEP and scope rings. So it makes it really cool.
Yeah.
But the biggest part of that whole muzzleloader, there's two things. The accuracy is unmatched, and
Yeah.
everything's inside, and there's no hammer. It's all you push the safety, and you're ready to rock. And for trackers, that means a lot. But for anybody, it means a lot. It's one less thing you have to worry about because the hammer's a pain in the neck.
And it's light.
It's costly.
It's just like shooting a rifle.
Yeah,
It's
there's
so
a lot
light.
of other features, but
Yeah,
those two stand out.
5.5 pounds, roughly.
Yeah, a 3.5 pound trigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. And about the time, a couple weeks from now, when this is
Yeah.
being aired, people might be thinking about black powder season
Oh, yeah.
at that time.
Yeah. Well, some of them probably already head there. Some places it's early and some it's late.
Right.
But there's a lot of late muzzle loading and stuff in the Midwest and out that way. They hunt a lot in December and some even in January, I guess, out there. Muzzle loaders and shotguns and stuff. But so
Yeah.
all I got to do is go to bigwoodsbucks.com and they can get them one.
Yeah.
Yep. What's
lot-
the price going to be on those?
$8.99 on the Build Your Own and $9.50 on the
Yeah.
tracker model.
Yeah. Great gun, working man's price.
You're actually
Yeah.
getting a custom rifle.
Yeah, it's a custom.
Yeah.
It's precision too.
And
And the
there's-
tolerances in the barrels are. It's unbelievable.
There's certainly lower priced muzzleloaders out there, but like the last muzzleloader I got, which is the only one I've ever owned, I bought in 2000, and I think back then I paid $500 for it. It's a Knight Magnum disc, so you have to have these
Special
plastic
discs, right?
yeah, which they don't make anymore. I bought it, but when they were gonna, I don't think they make them anymore anyway. I haven't seen them in a long time, but I bought a bunch of them back when I could. That gun is so heavy, and worst of all, if you get any sort of moisture on top of it, that disc is useless. It's supposed to be there to keep the water out, but it's missed more than one buck because it didn't go off. So I'm personally really looking forward to hopefully not have to use my muzzleloader in Maine this year. But
Well, we might have to make a trip down to the Berkshires in Mass there again.
Yeah.
I'll go with you this year for sure.
I got a couple of hot spots down there.
I heard.
They need a little thinning out.
Yeah, deer were stumbling all over each other down
Yeah.
there, weren't they?
We got to do some herd management.
When's it?
I was at the factory the other day, Woodman Arms, and I was talking to Mark, and he said that he chronographed a 175 grain bullet out of the 45 with 100 grains of Blackhorn 209, and it was approaching 2,600 feet per
Wow.
second. That's rifle.
That's unbelievable.
Out of a muzzleloader.
Yeah.
With just 100 grain.
Of Blackhorn.
Blackhorn 209.
Which is more like 120 or something of
Okay.
regular Pyrodex. Yeah. Scale's different. It goes by weight instead of volume,
Okay. But that's Great velocity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm shooting 195 grain power belt out of mine, and at 100 on the bench,
At 50 or 45?
45.
Yep.
Yeah. Which Mark said the 45's much more accurate, or
Really?
more accurate. I don't know, much more. He's much more technical than I am with all that stuff, but I know when he told me what to use. He told me to use that 100 grains of Blackhorn 209 with a Remington STS primer, and I use 195 grain power belt bullet. That's what he told me to use, and I'm touching bullets at 100. But it's a 3.5 pound trigger precision barrel, so you can get that kind of accuracy.
What, was that a 50 or 45 that we shot that day?
50.
Mine's a scope.
Yeah,
right?
that was pretty
Mine's
accurate.
scoped, yeah.
Yeah.
Was you there when I shot the 300?
I'd left just before you
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
But at 100, it was shooting pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always shot a 50, but, 45 if it's more accurate.
Yep.
I'd like to see the ballistics on that and the differences.
Oh, he said that it's impressive.
Yeah.
It's a
Hey,
difference.
Lib, these guys like to split hairs on that accuracy. We just want to shoot the deer with it.
Yeah, I just need it to go off.
Yeah.
It will. It will.
That's an important part, Lee.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I've had a
I'll-
couple that
I'll
didn't
agree with you. Yeah.
cost me some nice deer over the years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Me
Messing
too.
around with that old number 11 cap. And,
Oh, yeah.
That messes with you too in your head if you're not sure. You're putting all that work and effort in, and you finally get your 3 seconds, and if it doesn't work, it's pretty disappointing.
Back in the 80s in
Painful.
Rhode Island, you had to use a smoothbore Renegade with the double set triggers and that hammer on the side. But that was fairly reliable, but you had to protect it because any weather at all, that number 11 cap would give you a hard time.
We used to dump an extra little bit of Pyrex down the nipple hole there,
Yeah.
you know, underneath that 11 cap to try to increase our odds, but it didn't seem to matter much.
Yeah. Moisture don't work very good with Pyrex.
Yeah. It's come a long way, the muzzleloader world, huh?
Oh, yeah.
I've got a Navy Arms double barrel 12 gauge black powder gun that I originally bought down in Florida for deer hunting down there. And you feel like you're hunting in the 1800s when you got that thing. Got the big hammers on it.
Yeah.
It's a cool gun. I still have it, but as far as killing deer, not a lot of faith.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not a lot of faith. But the black powder equipment has come, the muzzleloader equipment's come so far, and it's like you're basically hunting with a single shot rifle nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So
All right. Well, cool things are happening at Big Woods. New muzzleloader. Got some camo packs, books, whatever you need.
Wool gloves.
Yeah, we just got another shipment of wool gloves in.
Those are
that's
the
good.
Best.
I need another set.
Yeah, those are the best.
Yeah, them gloves, I love them. And I found them. I'm like, these are the ones right here. So be all geared up for the season, won't we?
Yeah.
Good
You have to
stuff.
be, right? If you're
We
not
gotta be.
prepared,
Yeah.
What was the quote?
failing to prepare is preparing to fail.
Oh,
Never
yeah.
forget that.
That's right.
No,
No, but clothing makes a big difference.
Well, you got to have it to hunt right. Be
right to the
comfortable.
socks, right to the underwear. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I take a minute in the morning to get dressed, and I don't have to adjust. You know, when I get geared up, everything has to be perfect. But during the day, I never stop and pull my socks up. I never have to stop and adjust my long johns. I don't.
All right.
I'm glad you brought that up because we're introducing the new Big Woods green and black checked underwear
Nice.
coming out.
Yeah.
I'll wear it if it comes in.
Virgin wool.
I'll wear it if it comes in. I need the thong.
I hope I don't get a lot of phone calls. Of course
you do, Lee.
I can't fulfill those orders.
All the while you're going to be calling, trying to get them for Christmas gifts.
The more that you do this and you walk a long way, that the sock combination is so important, and it varies from the difference from year to year with the different boots. Because if it's just a little bit bigger, the boot, because they're rubber boots, sometimes you have to add another sock liner in there. It's just you got to find it, and once you find it, you're good. But you got to test it.
I got a couple pairs of Kuyu socks,
Oh yeah,
and I really like those. They've got them reinforced and padded in certain areas on the top and in the heel, and I just used them for moose season for the first time, but they were really, really comfortable. A little bit too warm for moose hunting, but for deer season, I think they're going to be really good. And they're really tall. They're calf high, so they go up above the boot. So there's no chafing at all from the boot.
Yeah, I remember reading in Larry's book. It said that if you don't take care of your feet, it's one of the most important things. You can't do anything, and it's true. I mean, the more that you do this, you get a flap of skin. You better have some moleskin, or else you're not
Yeah.
going to go too far. Yeah.
I never used to carry moleskin, but now I've got it in my wallet when I'm hunting. Just always, never know.
Yeah, you never know. I carry it in my shaving bag, but
Yeah.
when I'm traveling, I always have it. But I haven't had a blister on my feet for, I can't even remember if I ever had one since I've been hunting up north with rubber boots.
Yeah.
No, if you get the right boot and the right sock combination, you shouldn't have any problem.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to go to the Big Woods Bucks website and join the hunting club. On there, you'll find short films of Hal's hunts, video tips and articles written by Hal, as well as a forum where you can go on there and talk with fellow hunters and learn a few things while you're at it. There's a lot of good stuff on there, and we think it's going to be a great place for hunters to just communicate, and talk about a common interest. Check us out at bigwoodsbucks.com. Yeah, I don't know what it was. I went through a period a couple of years ago where I was getting them, and I want to say it was the same boot that I have now. I know you like the non-insulated ones.
Yeah.
To me, those are just a little bit too loose. I like a little bit of structure in the boot, but
They mean too loose.
they're
like-
not too soft. They're
They're like wearing sneakers.
eh,
Right, Lee?
Slippers. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do go to
No
'cause I
support
only
in the
wear
bottom.
I only wear one lightweight smart wool sock, and I wear that sock when I try my boots on and I buy them, and my boots are tight. So I do run the Burley's 200
yep,
with
the Alpha Burleys.
with the air grip, and
When it
those I like. But if there's only an inch or two of snow, I wear my Alphas. As soon as the snow comes over the top of that boot, my feet freeze. So
I know we covered this when we talked about equipment and boots and everything before, but I always hunted with my pants inside my boot just because, stepping in water and, not wanting to get water in. And some guy I hunted with mentioned maybe putting the pants on the outside.
Was that when when he's yelling at you?
He said it nicely.
He did.
Yeah, it was early on in our relationship. And it was mostly for noise because those rubber boots, the whippets and stuff, the raspberry bushes and all, they make a lot of noise in those rubber boots. But
Well, what I couldn't understand when I first started hunting with Joe is I didn't realize he couldn't hear real well. So he couldn't hear, I don't think, the whip slapping on the outside of his boots. Mm-hmm. But I could hear him a long ways.
yeah,
you just look at them. You look at your
hairy
client.
eyeball.
he was so disappointed.
That's what I call the
Look
hairy
at them
eyeball.
like, what is wrong with you? And maybe they don't hear it, but I turn around sometimes and I look at people like, what are you doing? And they look at you like, what?
Yeah.
Pick your feet up.
Yeah, they don't get that. But one thing about boots is I never use the soles, the insoles that come with them. I always buy a good pair of insoles, and that gives you more support because with the stuff that comes in that lacrosse boot is just it's just kind of junky, that insole. So I get a good pair, and I'm fine. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that one of the most important things is I dry my boots every night, whether it's my
absolutely.
Chippewas or it's my
Yeah,
lacrosse.
for sure.
Absolutely.
Them go on the boot dryer. This time of year, my boot dryer is right by the door.
Right.
First place my boots go.
I agree with that.
I tried out a pair. I got some of those in the boot dryers, like those 12-volt ones that you carry with you, and they don't work very good. All they do is get right down to the toe.
Good old
They don't get
sit-up.
the whole thing.
You mean when you plug them into your 12-volt?
Cigarette lighter, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They look great. They're orange and they're like shaped like the inside where your toes are, the end of the boot.
Yeah.
In theory, they look great, but they're better than nothing, and they'd probably be okay for a sneaker, but for a boot, they don't do
You
so
don't
well.
hunt in sneakers.
I got
Al does.
I got my regular boot dryer with the air thing in it, but them a couple of different models. But then I've got one that's kind of like what you're talking about, but it plugs into a 110
Yep.
socket, and that works good. I take those traveling. That's what I take because it doesn't take up any room. They fold right in half, and the bottom half goes down in the bottom, and the other half sticks up by your heel, sticks
Yep.
up the boot. They're still not very big, but they
I got
dry
those
good.
as well. They work good.
I'll have to look
As long
for
as
some
you
of those.
plug in the 110, it works better.
I
Yep.
think they're made by the same company, them Pete boot dryers.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Right. Yeah,
they're
I think
made
it
by
is.
that.
Yep.
No, they work good. I just use them for traveling, though, because I can throw them in my tote with the other stuff, and it doesn't take up any room.
So, Lee, you got busy work schedule coming this deer season. You probably won't have any time to go. Getting
I'm
ready
going to
for
go to any of my customers that are listening now. Tough.
Yeah,
That project will be right there when I get done.
it'll be there in the spring.
Yeah.
I told Hal last season, I said, I'm going to have everything ready so we can pick up and go where the snow is like Hal does.
Yeah.
Follow it. And I'm in pretty good shape going into the season. There's always a lot of in fact, you can appreciate this. One of our landowners doesn't even know where they're going to put us on the trail yet. So we have a major
Reroute.
well, we don't know. I mean, we don't know if it's going to be a reroute or be where it normally is. So that's always good. That's the biggest thing, hanging out there, because once we know where it's going, we'll have some work to do. But
Yeah.
and that connection ties us to you, so it's pretty important.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Usually by now, this time of year, I'm in an excavator and I'll sit in one till 10, 11 o'clock at night and then walk out. But this year we've got our maintenance done early. But, that's another way I find a lot of good bucks is trail maintenance. So anybody out there that wants to volunteer some snowmobile trail maintenance,
There's a
be
good
a
way to
good
get
way
some
to
help.
scout.
There you go.
Give me a call.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we got to be close here.
closing in on it.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm getting ready for get on a buck track.
I'm ready. I feel good.
I've been ready.
We got Youth Day it's going to be over when you hear this, but we've got Youth Day this Saturday.
Yeah.
I've got an 11-year-old I'm taking. Pretty excited about that. It's been a couple of years since I've done a Youth Day.
Yeah,
Always fun.
it's fun taking the kids. Yeah,
Any of you guys going Saturday?
No, I'm going to be on somebody's project.
trying to get his work done so he can
Trying to
go.
make-
Yeah. Well,
Trying to make somebody else happy
I was
other than
sit-
myself.
I was sitting around and I was like, geez, I don't know. I've got all this time. I don't know what I'm going to do this weekend. Now maybe I'll go deer hunting.
Yeah. I was going to take my grandson, but I didn't even know he was going to hunt this year, but he's ready. He wants to go. He's 9 now, but he'd already made plans to go with his other grandfather, so it'll be good. He's going in the Turner Pond camps. They're taking some kids and doing something in there, so
Nice.
it'll be good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Sam, but down home in a week or so.
Yep.
A couple of weeks.
You must have a Youth Day down there too.
Yeah. We got a youth weekend, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they hunt
Yeah.
Sundays down there.
I was going to say, we can't have a
They
youth
don't
weekend.
observe
in
a
Maine.
Sabbath down there.
Right.
I hunt Sunday.
Oh,
They're heathens down there.
Yeah.
geez. If that's not the most contentious debate every year that comes up
Yeah.
on social media and
Oh, yeah.
people talking about Sunday hunting, and I actually have gotten to where I'm fortunate that I take more than just Saturdays. That's the problem with a lot of people, is that that's the one day they have. Being in the line of work that I'm in, I'm able to be flexible and go more than just the Saturday. But if it was that one day, I'd probably feel a lot different. But having that Sunday, if it was open for hunting, I'd have to go.
Yeah.
I have to. This way it forces you to rest.
Right.
I run over to New Hampshire. It's only takes me about 35 minutes to get to some good country over there through the woods, and I don't take much
Back
time
at ya.
off.
Yeah.
It is nice being close to the border.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's a non-resident license over there?
Oh, what is it? About 125, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that. Their muzzleloader season's early, though. It actually starts this next week. Our first week of rifle is their first week of muzzleloader, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Then they go to rifle, but they close that northern zone, that Wayfire zone. They cut that back. Used to have an extra week over there. They cut that back. But
How is it for their elevation? Everything must have snow conditions similar to here.
yeah, identical. Yeah, getting a lot of people over there now, though.
Right.
Get a lot of chasers, I call them. You're a chaser if you're following my buck track. I mean, if you're following my boot track, you're a chaser. I don't care what you call yourself. you're a chaser.
You have people follow your track?
Absolutely. So what they'll do is they'll come in right behind you, and then they'll send somebody else around to the other side of a piece or something, and they'll try to come in on you.
That's good sportsmanship right there.
Oh, it's
Oh,
excellent.
yeah.
Pretty low.
And then you ask them what they're doing. Well, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be anywhere
That
near
would
that.
turn me off.
Yeah, so that's the one thing about when you park your truck that says Big Woods Bucks on it, you got to be careful where you park it, because you're gonna get company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I take the guide stickers off. I don't have any stickers on my truck. I have 1-800 Game Thief. It's the only one
Yeah.
I put on there.
I got one that says Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, like a big emblem. Put that- they stay right away from there.
Yeah.
They don't bother.
I'm gonna start driving a green Chevrolet pickup truck with a Katahdin rack on it.
There you go.
Black. They went to black now over here.
They did
in
go to
Maine,
black.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's time to wrap it up. Go get something to eat and
Yeah.
head on home.
Hopefully, on the next episode, we'll have a couple of good stories.
I hope
Deer
so.
season will be well underway.
We'll have some dead deer stories, I hope.
Hal
I got an
probably
idea
be
we're gonna-
tagged out, headed to Montana or something.
Oh,
He's
some
bored.
exotic place in a
Yeah.
private jet. you
Lib,
know.
I went to the Berkshires. It was 80 yesterday. Got 4 inches of snow last night. I passed up 280-inch deer, and I shot this one.
Yeah, I used to
Okay,
say when
Hal.
we first
I
started
think
going
I
on,
invited you for that trip, Lee.
You did. No, I'm just. teasing.
I think he went down through his Rolodex, inviting. He just wanted some company.
when we first started going to Ontario, he used to say, "You want to bet on who's going to get the first deer or the biggest deer?" And I said, "Well, why don't I just give you the money?"
Well, it's
I was a little cockier than that when it came to our moose bet, but I ended up giving him the money anyway.
Yeah.
And I ended up giving him Eric's money too. I don't know how that.
yeah. Well,
Wasn't I working for you, Cruzy? You owe Hal $20.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
well, I thought I was doing you guys a favor. I sent you a picture and told you about it the first day. You had all week to do something better.
Yeah. Well, I can't argue with that.
Yeah. I wanted a little competition.
Well, good luck on the track.
Yeah.
All right.
Good luck to everybody.
We'll talk to you again in 2 weeks. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Till next time, good luck on the trail.